Well, good.
Okay, so today we have got Ed Williams from Williams and Crosby Marketing Design.
Yep.
Thank you for coming and giving up your time today.
Pleasure.
What might be a good place to start is to tell us about the business.
Okay, start the business. Well, I actually started whilst I was at university, doing my degree in design and marketing over in Nottingham. And somebody came along and offered me a piece of work whilst I was doing my final show. They obviously thought they were going to get me nice and cheap because I was a student, and they were probably correct. But what that actually did was gave me a great opportunity to actually see the practicalities of business rather than just the theory, which you learn at university. And I really enjoyed that steep learning curve. So we did that work, got involved in some more work which we were invited to tender for. So I thought, this is great. Really like this. Spoke to the girlfriend who was actually on the course. She was a very pretty girl, but also a very talented designer. We decided let's go to San Diego. Let's up in San Diego. Why not? Nothing ventured, nothing gained.
Well, you did.
So all plans to go to San Diego, and then she got cold feet last minute. So we ended up in Wilmslow.
Okay.
So it's very similar.
Yeah.
Weather's not quite as warm. So we ended up there with a one-bedroom flat that we used as our office, trestle table, a couple of fold-out chairs. Went on to good old Maggie Thatcher's enterprise allowance for £40 a week. I was still playing a bit of football and things at the time, so I got a little bit of money from that. And I used to work in a record shop at the weekends to top up the money. So that was the beginning of the business.
Yeah. It's amazing how many people say they've done a kind of maybe a technical or a computer science degree. They go, when I started work, everything I did previously was useless, really, and it was a completely different world to...
Yeah, I wouldn't say it was useless because obviously it gave me the insight, but it was just didn't have that practicality. I was fortunate that I wanted to earn some money to go on holiday, so I spent 6 weeks in a studio whilst I was doing my degree, and there was all these old boys, probably in the age of 30, 40, and they were doing artwork, something you never really learn when you're actually doing a design course. And that gave me great insight, using things like Rubylith film and scalpels and just being on a drawing board. So that gave me an opportunity when I actually came out to set myself a little bit apart from the others. And without that practical learning, the theory, as you say, is useless.
Yeah.
You've got to be able to marry the two. And I always say it's a bit like passing your driving test.
Yeah.
And then somebody taking you in a manual car, putting the keys in the boot, putting you in the middle lane of the motorway and say, right, off you go.
Off you go.
So it's pretty scary, but very exciting as well.
Moving forward to now, what kind of projects do you get involved with?
Okay, it's very, very wide. Our client base is very wide. We've now been going 38 years. Just about 2020, our 39th year.
Wow.
Gives you an idea of how young I am.
Yeah.
The client projects range everything from, we've worked on one where we did a installation of a mock hospital inside somebody's HQ. So they could use it as a demo suite for demoing their software to the NHS.
Right.
How it works in the hospital. So we went off to Stuttgart. Looked at some best practice to try and get some ideas, and they gave us a budget and some space, and we basically created this demo space, which is all based around EastEnders. Not that I watch EastEnders, but EastEnders, everything goes around Albert Square. So I came up with this concept that people, when they fall sick, generally fall sick when they're at home. So instead of having the Albert Square, we'd have an apartment, and then around the outside that apartment, we'd have all the various departments of a hospital.
Yeah.
Starting with GP, going right way around to A&E, theatre, round to going to your pharmacy, which is generally when you go home, and then you went back into the apartment. So they're able to do role play to demonstrate the software really did work.
Yeah.
And right down to the other end, it could be somebody that contacts us, as that same client did when they went PLC. They said, can you actually design us a cake for 50 people, but we want our share certificate on the top, which we'd designed for them. So we went, of course we can. So, and everything between, websites, branding, exhibitions, anything that's a visual challenge, then
Right.
we've probably been involved in it.
Amazing. I mean, what better way of showing software for hospitals works, or the NHS works, than actually taking them through the role play of, this is a doctor's surgery, this is what goes on, this goes through to the hospital, this is how that works. Check you in, move you to the bed and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly. It's showing the practicalities of it, really. I think if you're offering any service, you need to be able to demonstrate that you can actually do what you say you're going to do.
Yeah.
A lot of us do it with things like case studies. You might use your website to actually demonstrate things you've done. You may have testimonials, video testimonials, a whole host of ways of doing it. But you need to be able to demonstrate to a new client that they're making the right choice. So, and if they're looking at 3 or 4 people, then you need to make sure that you're actually showing them why they should be choosing you.
Yeah. So, obviously, you've done the design degree, started a business. There's different areas of running a business, and the skills of maybe being a really good designer don't always match with running a business and finding new business and finances and all that kind of stuff. How did you find that?
How did I find it? It's an interesting question. Muddled my way through, to be honest, because I hadn't had anybody give me that practical advice with starting it whilst at university. But I found it fascinating, and I'm competitive by nature, with sports, running, football, tennis, you name it. You know, I'll have a go at it. So, and I think that's the same goes to business. You've got to have a competitive edge to you if you want to succeed. So, regarding all those other things, what I did was when I went to every client, I observed what they did. And I saw clients in the same field, same sort of size, established for the same sort of length of time, but they did things very differently. Right. So I was like a sponge. I could actually sit there and look at these, but I also observed which ones I thought I wanted to emulate, if you like.
Sure.
Their culture, how they behaved with each other, how they behaved with their clients. And there was certain clients I decided that I didn't want to emulate their culture.
Yeah.
And then there's having good people around you that you can actually ask questions and not being afraid to ask the question. Even if it's a silly question, ask it. If you don't ask it, you'll never know.
Yeah.
So
I think most business owners that have worked for other people in other businesses would see things that they like, seeing things they don't like and frustrated them. And the great thing I found is being able to bring that into my own business and try not to do the things that I didn't like, micromanaging and all that kind of stuff. And it's a real joy of being a business owner, I think.
It is, and also the people you work with, and choosing your own team. Deciding who you want in your team and who you don't want. And whenever I interview for positions, at the end of it, I ask them if they've got any questions. And often they go, no, you've answered it all. I said, right, okay, well, one question is, would you like to work for us? And the question is, for me, is, do I want you to work for me? There's got to be a synergy. You want people that reflect both your current culture and also where you want to take the business to. If you don't choose the right people, then it's going to be disruptive within the business. So that's key.
people it can be a huge cost. Yeah, if they're not the right ones.
Huge cost, but it can also, I always say that a business is only as strong as its people. So it doesn't matter what role they're doing, it's key to the business. If it's not key to the business, then you don't need them.
Yeah.
So, so our biggest expense is people, employees, but they're also our greatest asset.
Yeah.
Get the right people, you're going the right way.
So you mentioned sport.
Yes.
Football and running. Did you? What kind of? I don't know where the question is in this, but you know, tell us about your football. I'm no Louis Theroux, but
Okay.
you know.
Sports has always played a big part.
Yeah.
I probably wasn't the most academic. I was reasonably academic, got my A levels and got my degree.
Yeah.
But sport was always something that I really enjoyed and something I could really feel that I could sink my teeth into. Football-wise, I was offered trials, but I decided I didn't want to be a footballer. Back then, there was no money in it anyway.
No, I was going to say it's different.
And it wasn't my passion. Being competitive on the field and wanting to win the game and wanting to get my teammates to perform at the highest that they could was important to me. But having it as a profession wasn't really my game. So I did play semi-professional. A number of the guys that I played with did go on and play pro, but that's because they had more talent than I did anyway. Athletics. I really enjoyed athletics. I probably concentrated on athletics before my football. And I was a city and county champion, ran nationally. The only reason I said I was any good at cross country is because I wanted to get home. I didn't particularly enjoy it. So the quicker I ran, the quicker I got home.
Yeah.
But no, I've always enjoyed sports, that competitive element. And I think that goes into business. It's very difficult to separate the two, but in my game, it's about deadlines. And I have clients that ring me up and go, I've got Mission Impossible for you. And I'm going, okay, tell me what it is. So, yeah, I find that quite
the right
exciting.
guy. Yeah. There's something about being given a challenge with the business that kind of gets the cogs going and the competitive juices flowing, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's what probably gets me out of bed 38 years later. People might go, you're doing the same thing. Every day is different.
Yeah.
Every day, every client's different. Every project's got its own challenges. So,
were you a midfielder, forward?
started as a centre forward, then I played right back, and then I finished my career playing centre forward again.
Okay.
So, which again, it's a bit like business again. It gives you insight by playing different roles. You could see what worked and what didn't work. When I was playing right back, I knew what the attacker didn't like, mainly winding them up. And when I was playing up front, I knew what defenders didn't like, which was running directly at them.
Yeah.
So you could take the learnings from those different positions, which I say you can apply the same to business.
Yeah.
You take the learnings and apply them to your own benefit.
One of my first interviews I ever had, they asked me, because I play cricket. Cricket is my sport. I said, so if you were to, where do you bat and why?
Yeah.
And so obviously the technique with interviews is to take it on and use it as a positive to do it. And like you say, I've always opened the batting, and I said, I like to lead from the front, and to, the challenge of being that guy that goes for it and sets up the rest of the game for everyone else. And I ended up getting taken on, and the guy said afterwards that it was because of that answer that he liked. I think it's really interesting when you say, well, what area of your character goes into where you play and why, and then that's quite a insightful kind of view into their psyche and their attitude towards things. I think.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, I mean, if you're somebody that just accepts in sport, accepts defeat or accepts being average, then chances are that to take that into your other parts of life, and that's not to say there's anything wrong with that. You don't know, not everybody has to be hugely competitive. Otherwise, you end up with a big brawl. So, but it does actually reflect on the character of the individual, and you need different characters. The same with business. You need different characters. If everybody wanted to be a business owner, there'd be no employees, and we'd all be in trouble.
Yeah.
But for me, it'll do isn't good enough. It's not even a starting point. To me, that's you've given up. So I always believe that you should give your absolute best all the time. And you won't always get it right, but you go again. You try and make it better. So, and that's the same on the sports field.
Wow. So, obviously, you've started the business from university, kind of feeling your way through being a business owner and what that means. And was there a moment when you thought, I've actually got a proper business here?
Again, interesting question. I remember somebody saying to me at 10 years, when the business was 10 years old, saying, you're established. And I was saying, there's no such thing as being established these days. You can be brilliant for 10 years and go down the pan the next year. So probably when I felt that I'd got a proper business, if you like, was when I employed my first person or a second person.
Right.
And it wasn't just me and my business partner at the time. You actually were building something which felt more solid, if you like. But that came along quite early, because I was only about 23 when I started the business. And everything worked out quite nicely. It helped that back in the late 80s, everybody was into design, design of this, design of that. So that gave a big injection into my industry. But then I wanted to try some other things as well. So then I opened up a restaurant and bar. And from that, I've also gone into property. I also had an interior design business with a retail arm. I've been involved in some software. So I need those other challenges as well. But this has always been the core of my if you like, psyche when it comes to business. I've always enjoyed, enjoyed design and the challenges that gives me. But I've always liked to stretch myself in other areas as well.
Wow. I often think running a restaurant and bar is probably one of the hardest things to do.
I think you're right. I think it's only second to probably having children. But definitely, dealing with the public is very different to dealing with business to business. Somebody's out there to have the best evening that they can. They're taking the partner out. They want everything to be absolutely perfect for that hour or 2 hours. And you've only got that short window to make sure that they feel special.
Yeah.
And back to your team. You know, if you've got the right people in place, then you've got half a chance.
Yeah.
But I do think that the hospitality industry is a very, very tough industry.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't stay in it for too long.
I think, like you say, people in the hospitality industry, it's hard to keep good ones. It's hard to, the turnover of staff can be quite high. And, finding a good chef that stays with you and is, from what I've heard, is really challenging.
Yeah, I mean, if you've got a good chef, everybody else wants him. And chefs are known to have big egos as well.
Yeah.
Because they know that if the kitchen isn't good, you've got no restaurant. The food's no good, you've got no restaurant.
No.
So they can drive it to a degree. So you've got to look after them and massage their egos.
Yeah.
We did have a crazy Italian chef at one point when things got a little bit heated in the kitchen.
Yeah.
He was throwing pans around up in the air and all sorts of things. So he clearly wasn't the right character for a sustained business. But he was interesting.
Yeah. I used to, so one of my previous jobs was selling advertising to the hospitality industry. So it's a website that, a review site for hotels, caterers, restaurants, bars. And I went to this gastro pub, and I walked into the front door, and all I could hear was things being thrown around the kitchen and shouting. And the business owner came out, red-faced, very frustrated with everything, and I introduced myself, and he instantly put a smile on, and he said, let me introduce you to our chef, who they'd just been having a very bad argument with each other. It was the most awkward kind of conversation I've had for a very long time.
No, they are characters. On opening night, we did a soft launch. We did it on the opening night, and I remember walking in, and the restaurant was upstairs.
Yeah.
And as I was walking in, there was a couple of the waiters running down the stairs,
Yeah.
and just going, "He's gone mad! He's gone mad!" So going up and Giancarlo and saying to him, "Listen, you just calm down." And he got upset because they hadn't put the tickets in the right order.
Okay.
So
I suppose that is frustrating. Isn't it?
I'm sure it was very frustrating for him, but you need to work together.
Yeah.
Throwing pans around and frightening them off isn't going to help. So again, I've always believed that you shouldn't have a blame culture in business.
Right.
People make mistakes. We're all human. We make mistakes. But it's the clues in the word. It's a mistake. And there's a phrase that people use or saying that anyone can make a mistake. You're a fool to do it twice. You're incompetent to do it the third time.
Yeah.
But the thing is, when somebody makes a mistake, is try and find out how that's come about. How are you going to prevent it from happening again and move on? And everybody learn from it. So the same with Giancarlo. You need to find out why the girls are putting the chips in the wrong way.
Yeah.
Stopping it from going on and just move on. But not everybody works the same way.
Yeah. Are there any non-negotiables that you have with staff?
Non-negotiables. Well, there's obviously things like sexual harassment.
Yeah.
But
away from the imprisonment kind of offences, but
not caring, not being passionate about what you do, not treating clients as you would expect to be treated.
Right.
They're very, very simple things, but sometimes people forget it. We all have a rough day. Sometimes a client might be having a bad time or might not be feeling well, and they might react in a certain way. Sometimes you just have to take a breath and then come back to them. If they're having a bad day, how can you make it better? If you can do that, chances are you're going to retain that client. But having a passion for what you do, caring for what you do, as I said before, it'll do isn't good enough for me.
Yeah.
So yes, if anybody had that sort of attitude, I'm afraid it'd be a short-lived relationship.
Yeah. I often find with clients, especially in my later life, before starting up Manchester SEO, I was brought into companies because they're having trouble with clients, and the main issue with every single one of them was a lack of clarity.
Yeah.
They had no idea what was going on, or they were frustrated that nothing was being fixed in the software, and they really the only option they had was to get angry about it and to what's going on. And if you give people a clarity of this is what's been done, this is why, and human beings are very reasonable, funnily enough.
Communication is king. And you've got to be able to communicate. So you're right, and setting expectations. You might think you can do something within a given time frame, but then you hit a snag, and it's going to run over. So what do? Do you just get your head down, carry on with it, knowing you're going to let the client down, or do you pick up the phone and say, look, we're working on your project at the moment. We've hit a bit of a snag at the moment. We're expecting it's going to have a little bit of a delay. We're doing everything we can. Let me keep you informed, and I'll speak to you again at the end of the day and let you know where we're up to.
Yeah.
What's the client going to say to that? If the client says that's not good enough, then they're not being particularly reasonable. If you're keeping them informed, you're very honest and sincere with them, then the chances are you're going to actually keep that client on board. And as long as you actually then follow up on what you say you're going to do, and you do ring them up before they leave. Don't wait until 5 o'clock, because they might leave at 10 to. Ring them up in good time, and give them the opportunity to digest what you're saying, and explain what you're doing. So,
Clarity.
yeah.
Are there any challenges in your industry? Well, you do such wide work. Do you have any challenges in the business at the moment?
New challenge is AI, how that's going to affect the creative industry. It's got huge potential, but it also is going to be a huge disruptor. Just as when I started the business, it was everything was done on the drawing board, and then introduction of computers became prevalent within our industry. We were quite early adopters of that. Other people weren't, so that was a challenge back then. So maybe it was an age thing, so we were able to adapt to it. But it enabled us to do fantastic things that we couldn't do before.
Yeah.
AI is going to be a huge challenge for lots of businesses. You're going to have to embrace it. Either embrace it or get out. So those are your two options. So, but it can have huge benefits if it's used correctly. So that's a challenge, I would say. And employment is a new challenge. Lots of businesses will be facing it. We're all blaming the COVID and the pandemic. People working from home and they're not wanting to go back in the office. Trying to recruit people is a challenge. But again, business changes. You have to adapt to it. You either adapt, as I say, you get out. Those are your choices.
The AI conversation is one we've had a lot with social media managers, copywriters, salespeople, everything that it's kind of touched, and it has been a massive influence on the industry. And we find, like anything, if there's no quick fix to anything, but AI does reduce the time for certain tasks. And the important thing is, like you say, is that'll do doesn't work, because it'll get found out, especially in the SEO world. If that'll do will work, well, Google will find that'll do and it'll penalise you for it.
Yeah, and rightfully so.
So you find it's not so much AI that's the issue, it's humans using it might be the issue.
Yeah, again, the same in our industry. As business gets more automated, it means that you don't necessarily need people to be quite as skilled. Or it means that people that maybe aren't as skilled can move into that space by using automated tools. But that doesn't necessarily always give you the right result. Automated tools can reduce time. If we're using AI for concepts and so on, you might use it for some of your research, and actually send it out to bring back some research for you. And then it's about using your own intelligence and your own experiences to then take that research and turn it into something your client actually really needs. Again, we have a phrase that what a client says they want isn't always what they need. So with AI, it works with prompts, as you all know. So if you tell it, I want this, this, and this, you will actually get the results back on that. But is that really what the client needs? So then you have to use your own intellect to understand the client. I'm sure AI will get better and better. And maybe I I will be redundant before I know. But
I'm still clinging on to the idea that maybe there's a thirst for humanity, and that the human aspect, like you say, of being able to get from the client what they want and then turn it into something maybe better, or exactly finding out what the purpose is and then giving them what they need, rather than what something that AI doesn't do at the moment that I'm aware of. And so perhaps the human aspect is what makes something compelling and good and useful.
Yeah, I mean, it's things like when I sit down, we start with what we call a discovery process, and you'll probably do exactly the same in your side. But we sit down, we talk to the client, and we'll say, what is it you want to achieve? Why you want to achieve it? Tell me about your business.
Yeah.
Tell me where you've come from. But once you're actually getting that dialogue back, you're also watching body language. And when you're putting suggestions into them, you can actually see whether or not they get a smile on the face, or whether or not a glint comes in their eye, or whether or not they feel a bit fidgety and nervous. And all those give you indicators as to whether or not you're on the right track or not.
Yeah.
If you're just asking a prompt and getting a response, then you're not picking up on all of those signals.
Yeah.
And you can find out how. So you might push, when we're doing design work, we'll often do a thing we really love them to go with, but it might be a little bit out there. Something that they say they want, and then there might be something in between. And by watching the body language of the client, you can see how comfortable they are with the way it's going. And you can push them even further to try and break new ground and bring new ideas into the business that they hadn't even thought about.
Yeah.
But you pick that up from actually having that conversation. So that's where the human element comes in.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fascinating, isn't it? I love talking about it.
Yeah.
Not so much using it these days, but I do love. It's the theory behind it. How can we use it better? What makes something good? What is good content? We always talk about, and how do you, how do you use that to keep people interested and on the page, and then how do you convert that into sales, or someone making an inquiry for your service, or something like that? It's a deep obsession for me.
I agree. That's the fascination. That's the bit that keeps you interested, if you like. Producing under the website is just another website. But it's the bit that makes it interesting. How would you push it to the next level? How would you actually deliver something for that business that it actually really requires, and that their customers are going to engage with, and it's going to build their brand, and then they're going to get brand loyalty, and then they're going to keep client retention, and they can build their business. That's the bit that's fascinating for me. It's not just the marks on paper or the marks on the screen. It's how you actually engage with those people and actually get a connection, if you like.
So one of the questions we usually ask business owners is if they have any tips for other business owners. You've been doing it a while.
I'll probably just recycle the tips that I've been given, if you like. But I think for me, it's maintaining a positive attitude. Every business has its challenges. Some they can control, some that they can't control. You've got to try and overcome those challenges. So staying positive. Sometimes business owners can get overwhelmed because they've got so many things they need to deal with. And I'll say, quite simply, write it down as a list. Look at the simplest ones you can actually deal with. Strike them through, move on to the next ones. It's a bit like spinning plates. You see the guys spinning plates on a pole. You can spend all your time running around spinning the plates so they don't break. What you really need to do is take some of those plates off the poles. So if you take the ones off that are nearest to you, it will give you more time to spin the rest. And eventually you'll get your way through all the plates. So I'd say positive attitude, don't get overwhelmed, and in order to make a start, you have to make a start. Make that first step.
Yeah. Someone told me once that you have to be comfortable with chaos.
I never thought about it that way.
Not so much chaos of the business and how it works, but more everything that goes around with it. And as you say, spinning plates and being comfortable with things not always being perfect all the time.
Yeah, being able to be agile, I'd say is one of those things. But I would also say that being in business isn't for everybody. Some people it just doesn't suit, and there's nothing wrong with that. Some people are cut from a different cloth. I've got some brilliant employees that would never want to be a business owner because it's just not what floats their boat.
Yeah.
You have to do what's right for you. But I'd definitely say biggest tip is surround yourself with people that are better than you.
Yeah.
So employ people that are better than you.
Good advice. What's coming up next for you in the business? What's next on the agenda? Anything exciting?
Exciting wise, we've got some exciting projects.
Yeah.
But we're just looking for a new employee. That's going to be exciting if we can get the right person in. And trying to make time to spend more time on AI and and understand it better. It's moving at such a pace. I find that exciting. So doing that. What else? Privately, got a few other exciting things. I'm doing a skydive, something I've wanted to do for about 20 odd years.
Right.
My wife and children have kept telling me no. So an opportunity came up to do it for a charity.
Right.
So I thought, what a better way? Fulfills my ambitions,
Yeah.
and it also hopefully will do good for somebody else.
Sure. Fantastic. Sounds like a good place to finish.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for coming on, Ed. And I think there's been a lot of insight there that would be very helpful to other business owners.
It's difficult to get 38 years in a few minutes, but hopefully there's something interesting there for people.
Definitely.
Okay, thank you.
That's good. Well done.